Welcome, everyone. There are moments in time, energetic portals that open once in a lifetime, alignments that hold the power to accelerate your path, collapse timelines, rapidly resolve karmic loops, and cycles of suffering, unlock codes that have been hidden. And we are entering into one of those moments. No coincidence that the ghost points are also being facilitated during this time. Today, I want to walk you through and break down with some screen shares, with some astrological deep dives, with some diving into the Bible and into the holidays of Passover and Easter, the crucifixion and resurrection. We're going to speak to the significance of this moment in time for humanity and for all the ones that are called. So, first, I want to start by welcoming you, inviting you to take a deep breath, to ground into your roots, come in for as long as you feel you have space for now. Pause this video, save it, come back and watch the rest because this is going to be a deep dive within 30 minutes or less. For those watching, say hello in the comments. Word or an expression or a felt sensation you are currently experiencing in your body and in your life. Let that be an invitation for what you want to anchor into more of throughout this journey. I'm going to start by opening up some astrological pieces, understanding the astrology first about March and April of this year, which will be a significant turning point for yourself, the collective, and the planet. For those who've never watched a video with me before or have not dived into my astrology, I work with the sidereal system, the astronomical placements of the planets. Not always the same as tropical astrology. What I love about this moment is that tropical astrology is around 27 degrees off from the astronomical placement of the planets. Usually, when we're talking about major significant transits, there is a difference between sidereal, astronomical, and tropical astrology. With this transit, they're happening in Pisces, whether you look at the astrological or astronomical. And what I love so much about that, it brings up a lot for me energetically because so much of what we know about tropical astrology deals with the collective ego, the stories, identities, ideologies that have been programmed into humanity, that through your tropical astrology chart, you can identify, track, and spiral up and out of to come back into alignment with your soul. And with your solar chart, the first stage of that is your sidereal geocentric, which would be Earth at the center. And then you move into your more advanced heliocentric with the sun at the center. We're not going to deep into that. You don't need to know what any of that means to catch what I'm going to be sharing here today because it's not going to be very technical. However, I will show you the chart for those who want to see it. The significance in it happening for everyone and everyone's awareness in Pisces is monumental because major collective transits will happen. And let's say people who are very religiously following tropical astrology, this is happening in Aquarius. And people who have brought themselves back into alignment with astronomical placements will be like, it's actually in Capricorn. A big discussion in that front is where Pluto is currently, because astronomically, Pluto is in Capricorn. You look into the night sky, the physical planet is in Capricorn. However, tropical astrology would say it's in Aquarius. So that brings up a conflict between the conscious and unconscious mind that creates cognitive dissonance where transformational energies of the planet at large will be missed by those who are not fully in alignment with the planetary body. When we have this significant moment, which is happening between Neptune, the North Node, and Saturn, there are other players coming into alignment with these planets, which we'll talk about. These are all happening in Pisces, because if we look at it from tropical astrology, we're looking at these transits happening around 28 degrees of Pisces. We look at it from an astronomical placement or sidereal, and we're looking at these transits happening around 1 degrees of Pisces. So it's all happening in Pisces, which means that there is no cognitive dissonance that is going to filter out the level of depth that this transformation can happen and ripple out throughout the collective. It's like pristine alignment, what astronomy strives for. And by the time Pluto leaves Capricorn, we will see the end of tropical astrology as we know it. Whether tropical astrology evolves to be more precise or phases out from being the majority, this is the beginning of the end of tropical astrology as we have known it. Now we have another 20 years of Pisces or Pluto in Capricorn. This alignment between March and April is the starting point of transformation, because it is finally bringing all sides, all energies, all aspects of self into one singular focus where we can move from that aligned place and rapidly spiral up. Before I show you the charts, I want to talk about Pisces. For those of you who are not aware or do not study astrology, or maybe for those of you who do study astrology, we all bring unique depths in how we understand and articulate signs in the zodiac. I will share my personal chart. I like to be very transparent. I don't like to hide anything. For those of you who understand astrology, you'll see it. Maybe you'll understand things about who I am and why I have an affinity with the sign Pisces, because this is all happening in conjunction to my personal natal north node. So I have been in a deep initiation with Pisces for a long time. Pisces is the 12th house of the zodiac, the last house of the base 12 constellations. There are more constellations beyond 12. We can go from base 12, we can bring in the celestial equator, and we would have 24. The celestial equator includes Orpheus, it includes Satis, it includes many other constellations as well. Pisces is the 12th in our base 12 constellations, and it represents, I like to say it's like your garage. Our garage is the place that we go and store all the things that we don't know what to do with in our house. We host a lot of retreats on our land. It has a lot of things from past retreats that we've set up. We've had 33 people at our home for a retreat before, and we had to have all these extra plates and bowls and camping tents and beds and all these things that don't fit in our house. I don't know what to do with them, yet we're not ready to get rid of them, so we've packed them away into the garage or basement, where you store things that don't have a place in your conscious life. Your conscious life is in your house from a feng shui perspective. It's what's around you. Your unconscious is held in storage, cabinets, closets, and junk drawers. Pisces is your junk drawer. It's that place that you put all of the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical aspects of your reality. And I say that because it's not just this life and conscious experience. You are a multidimensional being having different experiences throughout space and time. You accumulate energy imprints that you don't know how to process in the moment that you receive them. We call these your karmic imprints. These are deep traumas. A great physical example is children. If a child goes through a crisis at a very young age, that they don't have the physiological brainwave capacity to process and integrate, they don't have the emotional skill set yet to process and integrate, they don't have the resources to handle, address, process, and assimilate significant trauma, that trauma gets stored in the body somewhere. Pisces is that place energetically where we store what we have not understood, comprehended, or known what to do with in the moment. So it is your junk drawer. However, it's not junk in there. It is very important, monumental things that are actually driving your greatest karmic patterns, storylines, loops, and things that are continually perpetuating, happening, and existing in your life. So the driving factor of your life's experience is what's going on in Pisces. Now, the Piscean energy, we go into that energy when it is time to break karmic patterns, end loops of suffering, when it's time to actually drudge up and dig up the tar, the muck, the pain, the trauma, the stories, the beliefs, the ideas, the pain body, the different simultaneous realities and incarnations and things in your ancestry and in your lineage and in your bloodline that have been keeping you in particular patterns. Those particular patterns may not always be joy and ease. They may be disease. They may be pain. They may be suffering. They may be regret, loss, shame, guilt, blame, poverty, and scarcity. So when we get to Pisces in the zodiac, we can no longer shove things into the junk drawer. We must go into the depth. Another way I like to look at Pisces is by associating it with the bottom of the ocean floor, the deep ocean abyss. Our three water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, each one takes us deeper. Cancer, which is the first water sign that we come into, is like the surface of the ocean. These are your conscious emotions. These are the emotions that you're experiencing day in and day out. These are the emotions you are more actively in touch with, the emotions you naturally gravitate towards. Then you make your journey through the zodiac and you come to the next water sign, which is Scorpion. And at Scorpion, you've now decided to go past the surface and start diving into the deep end, right? You need an oxygen mask, right? You can't just go and deep sea dive. There's no oxygen down there. There's no light. You need a guide. You need tools. You need resources. You need support. To get to that Scorpion energy, you're willing to hold the pressure you're going to face as you go deeper into the element of water. Consciousness, memory, existence. Water is everything. Water is life. We live in a water-based planet. We breathe water. We live on water. Our bodies are pure water. If you go beyond the planet and the atmosphere, it's all hydrogen and oxygen. It's all water. So water is a big aspect of our elemental makeup and consciousness. So you start to go deep into that scorpionic energy and you get to this point where you're now just in it, right? I'm going deep. I'm going in. I have my scuba gear. I've got my breathing tank. I've got my scuba instructor who's your mentor, your guide, your teacher, your facilitator, or your elder that is, hey, I'm going to teach you how to dive into the depths. You're now swimming in the deep end. And then we can start going even deeper. Now, to get to the bottom of the ocean floor, this is unheard of for most of humanity physically. The other day I read this article. I was laughing when I read it because it was saying how there are creatures from the deep sea that are starting to come up to the surface. Creatures that we have never had photos of before, we've never seen before because there's no human that's gone to those depths. Our technology can't even go to those depths. These creatures are starting to come up to areas where we do have cameras, drones, and capacities to see. These creatures are coming up to the surface because we are in this moment where it's time for the bottom of the ocean floor and everything that we have been collectively shoving down, bottling up, and saying, I don't know how to deal with this just yet, have been guiding the trajectory of our conscious experience. Pisces is that bottom of the ocean floor. To get down there, you're not going to go down there in your body. You're going to with your consciousness. You're going to go down into those places with the depth of your devotion and determination to hold the pressure and hold the intensity, hold your breath even, and rely on support to get you there, to steer you into those depths. I hope that speaks to the profound essence and energy of what Pisces contains. And to enter into the depths of water, Pisces is a spiritual journey. It is a calling. And up until this point, it was a calling that maybe didn't call you, maybe didn't call the collective in this life. Up until this point, to really be on a spiritual quest, a spiritual calling and rites of passage, where you are striving in consciousness, You're no longer striving in the material world in the same way, though you will be materially provided for. When you are striving in consciousness, you have gone down into your roots and you're materially provided for. That was really a choice that not everyone made. I talked about this in a previous video that I have on my YouTube page about period 9. I'll link it below. If you did not see that period 9 feng shui report, I talked about how in this 20-year cycle, spirituality, consciousness, healing, growth were no longer choices. These were going to be non-negotiables that everyone in the collective were going to be thrown into, whether they liked it or not. Because the planet is picking up momentum, is picking up light, is picking up frequency, it's picking up consciousness, and there's no stopping the trajectory of where the planet is going. I also mentioned in that period 9 video, there was a turning point. This is a 20-year cycle. The energy slowly shifts into that 20 years. And we would be really starting to anchor into the frequency of period 9 come 2025. This alignment is the turning point that roots us in period 9. In the divine miracle frequency, to realize it's time to be moving from a space of magical realism. It's time to be moving from a space of your big vision, your desire, the spiritual notion, consciousness is real, is all that there is, and moving in that space. So let's talk about it. We are in Neptune conjunct the North Node. For those who don't know, the North Node is one of the poles of the moon. A position orients us around our future vision, our destiny, why we came here, the lessons to learn, and the direction of our life's path. Whereas the South Node, the opposite, is the lessons that we have gained, the gifts that we have realized, the embodiment that we've stepped into in alternate lifetimes or in previous versions of ourselves in this life, that are meant to be like the bow that launches you into your North Node. So when we have a major North Node transit, we are talking about preparing ourselves for the next generations. Neptune is a very misunderstood planet by the collective, and I know that's going to be changing. I'll be bold enough to say that. I know that's going to be changing. We have understood Neptune's shadow and Neptune's lower vibrational frequency up until this point based on tropical astrology. Tropical astrology is the ego collective epigenetic overlay. It is inherently moving and operating from a space of wound. So people have oriented around Neptune from the space of delusion, fantasy, confusion, lack of clarity. It can also tap into some magic. If you have some potent Neptune placements, you potentially have developed a little bit more of your clairsenses. However, the conventional modern world would say that those clairsenses are potentially delusional. Some clairsenses have been labeled as mental disease. There has not been a place in the mainstream for the magical abilities that Neptune can awaken. And a lot of them have been labeled as diseases. So that aspect of Neptune has been thought of as, oh, when Neptune's around, it's going to create a lot of fantasy, delusion, and confusion and distortion. I had the privilege of having this all happen in conjunction to my natal North Node. So I have been navigating a major transit in my life. For those of you who don't know, I have been studying astronomy since the moment I could speak. If my grandma is watching, she will say in the comments and confirm that when I was a small child, I would point up and tell her where the planets and stars and all the things that were going on, because I just knew and understood, and it was in communion. And I've taught and trained many facilitators in astrology, human design, and the gene keys. This is not coming from a lack of understanding. My approach to astrology is deep communion, contemplation, and connecting to planets as consciousness. I do not study them in texts because I believe that studying them through text, you're only going to tap into the wisdom that someone else was able to connect with based on their consciousness when they connected to that planet. And that may have been for them through another book, and for them through another book, and for them through another book. You're going to come across some people throughout time that really drop in and just meditate and pray with these planets and connect to them as guides. Saturn really taught me how to do that during my first Saturn return. We're going to talk about Saturn in this journey because Saturn's going to be coming up heavy and hot with Neptune and the North Node here. Last year, when Neptune came into conjunction with my North Node, I entered into the most exalted state of bliss that I had ever touched in this body. And immediately after, entered into about 6 months of total panic and mania, distortions and delusions, and was losing it. And I was aware that Neptune was initiating me. I allowed myself to surrender and do things I never thought I would, to connect with this planet and understand that everything we'd been taught. There was a part of me that was like, oh my gosh, is this what the next several years of my life is going to be? Delusion and fantasy and distortion and all these things. I said, no, I don't believe that is the highest nature of Neptune. I don't resonate with that being my core truth. I feel that Neptune is wanting to reveal to me where my mind is still fixated on ideas no longer serving me, and where I need to fortify my mind. At this time, we were leading activations in Kauai, streaming an activation about fortifying the mental body and how that was the most significant thing we could be doing for the next several years, fortifying our mind and fortifying the mental body so that we became unpenetratable by external forces that were trying to hijack and distort us. I allowed myself the space and the time, and you didn't see a lot of live videos from me in 2024 because I was deep in this rite of passage with Neptune, opening me, unlocking me, and helping me to realize it really came to a crux when I was working on one of the acupressure points on my body. This acupressure point is one of the ghost points that I facilitate. And this particular point is told to be done in moderation because this point can either take you to schizophrenia or it can take you to enlightenment when it worked in excess. And I started to realize that this way that we looked at Neptune was very much from the lens of schizophrenia, which is mental disease. There's something wrong with the fascination and the fantasy and the miracle and the dreamer and the right brain and things that we can't fully grasp by science and logic. That has been traditionally labeled as disease in some way of the mind. And that was this schizophrenia. I said, okay, if this point will take me from schizophrenia to enlightenment, then so will Neptune. Because the first thing that I experienced in that state with Neptune was the most sublime state of bliss where I was truly plugged in. I felt everything flowing through me and around me. My body moved differently. We were standing at this waterfall. I have videos of this because I had my partner document this because it was so surreal. I'd never experienced and touched what was happening inside of my body in communion with everything around me, completely sober. I don't do plant medicines or anything like that. This was not altered in any way. This was just streaming this consciousness, though it would feel like I was on some type of medicine journey because that has been how people can touch these states. Those states are all available inside of us. And so I let myself go through this journey of realizing that Neptune holds the keys to enlightenment in its highest state. When we have Neptune come into conjunction with North Node in Pisces, we are starting to say we have to look at everything that we have put in the junk drawer. We have to look at all of the stuff, the karmic residue, pain body, distortions, all these things that are really deep spiritual initiations that we have said we are not capable or possible to handle in all the different ways, that it's time to look at those so that we can come forward as an enlightened civilization and move towards enlightenment. Light in light, bring light into me. Light, consciousness, bring it in. Bring consciousness into our awareness. Allow more consciousness into our body so that we're no longer operating 10% in consciousness, 90% in the unconscious. That is the first stage. Many people are oriented around the challenging aspects of Neptune. You may have felt unclear, like something is building, about to change, yet it hasn't been clear. That clarity piece is going to come as we have Saturn come through. Saturn is logic and realism. It's tangible, scientific evidence. It is what you build here in form. It is order. It is structure. It is the process of transformation that makes something real. We have Neptune coming into conjunction with Saturn, bringing us magical realism, bringing us this reality where your visions, this magic in you, this knowing that you can fly, walk through layers, be telepathic, or do all these magical things and have all these abilities and instantly manifest things and bring to life these incredible visions for humanity that elevate us all and move us towards a new golden age. It's time for that to become real. That is the direction we're moving towards. What's happening all in Pisces, though, which says we have to look at the junk drawer to move in that direction. Now, I want to show you the screen for a second before we start to take this even deeper and look at why all of these transits are happening at Passover, Easter, during the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ, and dissect how ordained this reality is. So let's screen share. I have March 1st as the first transit here. This is my physical body's chart. I'm very transparent with people. I'm showing you this is happening, how it's happening for me. However, this is what's happening in the collective. We're looking at the green on the outside. March 1st, you're going to see, let's scroll down here. The North Node is at 0 degrees Pisces. We have Neptune at 1 degrees on March 1st. So they're in conjunction. Saturn still in Aquarius at the start of March. We also have Mercury, 29 degrees of Aquarius. Zoom out and specifically look at the middle of March with transits. We're going to see Saturn making its way closer. We still see this transit between Neptune and the North Node going on for a little while, right? So we have Neptune here at 2 degrees Pisces. The North Node is still at 0 degrees. We have the Sun coming up here at 28 degrees of Aquarius. The Sun is going to move into Pisces here, and that's when things are really going to start to glow up. I want to share that the 16th of March is the first ceremony. It's when the ghost points begin. And I'm specifically saying that because the next round of ghost points was supposed to happen. I planned for it to happen after December and February. I told everyone it's going to happen in February. And then in February, God said, wait. And I said, okay, I'm not really big into calendars and holidays. I'm just here now, present. What day of the week it is, I have no idea. That's not how I orient around life. So when I received the dates, start on March 16th, end on April 20th, I had no awareness until I put this into my calendar that these were going to coincide with Passover, that these were going to coincide with Easter, that these were going to coincide with these major planetary transits. Let's go to April 1st. April 1st, we're now looking at the North Node 0 degrees, Saturn moving closer at 27 degrees. It's now within 4 degrees of our outer planets. It's influencing what's happening going on here this entire time. We are feeling that Saturn energy coming into alignment. Neptune is at 2 degrees of Pisces. We also have Venus here chilling at 0 degrees. We got Mercury at 1 degrees. This is a monumental moment. March through April, I don't know how else to describe this. This is a once in a lifetime happening. Let's go to the 20th of April, and we're going to see that Saturn is now within its orb, 29 degrees of Aquarius. The North Node is at 29 degrees of Aquarius. They are now exactly conjunct, and Neptune is at 3 degrees. We are in this dance of Neptune, Saturn, North Node. I want to talk about Passover, Easter, the crucifixion, and the resurrection. I do not subscribe to any religion. At this stage in my journey, I feel religion is not aligned because it promotes one ideology as absolute truth, and we live in an infinite spectrum of an omniscient creator that can hold multiple truths. And I have been studying the Bible since I was 11 years old. This body is 37 years old. I went to religious schooling, Catholic schooling from 7th grade through high school and then to a Jesuit university. And throughout those years, I had to take 4 religions every single year. I have read the Bible inside and out. I have read many religious texts inside and out. My understanding from doing that is that they're all saying the same thing. There is not one true God. There is simply the creator. There is simply the omnipotent source field that has brought itself through many different ideologies and ideas and lives based on where people constellated on the planet. So I truly accept and love all versions of God. When I say God, I am not speaking to a man in the sky from the Bible that is judging you for your sins or all these different notions that religious context had in. I know deep things about the Bible and how edited and altered it was, how when it was translated into English, the number one Hebrew translator at the time was not asked to translate this Bible. He said that the translation into English was an abomination. He said that it was not factual. It was tremendously altered and skewed in a way that he said bringing this to the people was an abomination. There is a lot of distortion in that text. We have to look at it from a symbolical standpoint. It's all about symbols. The path of Yeshua, of Jesus, is symbolic. This being I have devoted a lot of time, energy, and journey to connecting with. People deep into Christianity can have a hard time hearing that because I don't subscribe to many things about the Bible. Yet Christ and Jesus are a really deep part of my journey in ways that I will not even share because it's too sacred. And some things are meant to just be holy inside our body. You feel it though. And when we talk about Passover and we talk about Easter, first I want to talk about Passover is a period of time that was really in Christianity, the journey from the crucifixion to the resurrection. The crucifixion, if we look at it from a purely religious standpoint, this is Jesus dying for our sins. And then the resurrection is being reborn pure and holy. So it is the Piscean journey, right? What we put into the bottom of Pisces, what we put into the junk drawer, the sins are the things that simply we have not been able to fully process and integrate and land and hold space for and heal and evolve through and embrace the parts of ourselves that have made choices throughout space and time that maybe we wouldn't choose today. So the sins are our pains, they're our traumas, they're our wounds. And that is what we hold in Pisces. This all happening in Pisces is deeply symbolic to the crucifixion because the crucifixion is this representation of Christ, of Jesus going and saying, I'm ready to be reborn. I am ready to dissolve and die and end all of these distortions, all of these wounds, all of these pains. I'm willing to completely destroy myself as I have known it to be purified and made whole. It is a rite of passage, the crucifixion. It is a soul's integration and initiation process where you become crucified. And anyone who's gone through that in your own journey, you feel that crucifixion. You go through this journey of death and rebirth. That is Piscean energy. That is the water element going from Scorpio to Pisces is continual crucifixion and rebirth and resurrection of what is pure and holy. So I want to bring in this interesting thing about Easter. And this one woman that I found who did some articles about this, many people don't know that Easter is actually a pagan holiday. It's not a Christian holiday. Original text is about Passover. Easter was brought in, and the Apostle Paul actually said many things about how the New Testament was going to bring in a lot of deception and distortion, and Easter would be one of those perceived deceptions and distortions because it was built on a pagan holiday. However, That's only if you're looking at it through the lens of Christianity is the only true God. Whereas we're not looking at it through that lens. We're looking at it through the lens of God has made itself living and present through many different creations. And they all return to God. Easter is actually built, created, and named after the goddess Ishtar. I need to share a story with you about this because when I tuned into this energy, I was a little bit blown away because a lot of you know the story of me being a walk in. And the moment that I went through the crucifixion and the resurrection, which was the moment when the original soul that was in this body, her name was Jessica, actually died and left the body. And when that happened, I entered into this trance state, and this goddess came to me and just huge angelic wings, just radiating so much light. And Jessica was just bardoing. The bardo chambers opened, and this goddess came to me, and the goddess's name was Ishtara. And Ishtara is the goddess of heaven. And Easter was named after this goddess. And Easter is meant to be the resurrection. There's so many symbolic pieces, keys, and codes that we can start to look into because when we see Neptune and Saturn and the North Node come together in Pisces, we are talking about the crucifixion. We are talking about the death of all these old parts through integrating them and facing them and taking ownership and responsibility for the sins. People verbalize the crucifixion as Jesus being responsible for the sins of humanity. It is taking full ownership and responsibility, which is what us here as creations of the Creator are here to do for all of it, for all parts of ourselves. That is how we heal the Piscean energy. We become responsible, we bring consciousness to it, and then it no longer has control over us. So, all of this lining up together, these planets coming into alignment, which is Saturn and Neptune will come into alignment every few decades. Saturn and Neptune coming into alignment at the precise degree when they're in alignment with the North Node is a centennial, so hundreds of years before that will happen again. But all happening in Pisces is an even bigger cycle. That's not going to happen again for hundreds and hundreds of years. So the fact that this is happening now during the exact moments in the Bible when we know of the crucifixion and the resurrection and Passover, and during Passover, you're consuming bread, right? And that bread is the body of Christ, and drinking wine, the blood of Christ. You are in this process where during Passover, it is said that you're not supposed to do ordinary work. That is what is believed in the Jewish faith. You're meant to be in this seva, in this devotion to this purification ritual, this rite of passage of purification, because the crucifixion is the purification. It is going into the Piscean energy and being responsible and purifying the body, the mind, and the blood, which is the spirit. And bringing that through to the resurrection, which is when you are now reborn in the Ishtar, goddess Ishtar, in heaven on earth. We have this saying to embody heaven on earth. This is goddess Ishtar's wisdom. This is Easter. It is heaven on earth. The resurrection, pure and holy. I hope it's really landing in your body and in your cells right now how rare and how ordained it is that all of these alignments are happening at these exact precise moments in our specific calendar, all simultaneously. And then adding in the layer of God speaking, these are the dates at these ghost points, which the ghost points are non-ordinary work. They are extraordinary points that open up inside of your body. These are points of your body, the body of Christ. This is the body. It is through the body that you come to know Christ, and it's through your blood being made pure and holy. through extraordinary work. These are extraordinary points. You are not meant to be doing ordinary work during this period of time. You are meant to be doing extraordinary work on your divine vessel to purify yourself of your ghosts. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm mind blown. This is the most ordained moment in time. I truly don't even know, but something in me feels like I'm never going to facilitate these points again after this. We may just be moving into teaching people how to facilitate them because this is like the holy of holy. I don't even know how else to describe the ordained moment that we are in collectively and how auspicious it is to be going through these points during and exactly precise on these moments with these celestial alignments, with the alignments of Passover, with these biblical prophecies, all at the same time. It is a moment of going through and facing your ghosts, your sins, the aspects of you that you've buried in Pisces, and liberating them through your body to be resurrected, to be reborn. And what was Jesus when he was resurrected? He was resurrected as this pure embodiment of the divine. That is where we are collectively moving. The second coming of Christ is an awakening of consciousness in every living body. To do that awakening, to go through that awakening, has been known that you must move away from ordinary work for a period of time to work on the extraordinary, to be in devotion to the body and blood of Christ, becoming purified and renewed and reborn and liberated. That is what the resurrection is. It is the liberation from sin. Sin are the ghosts. The ghosts live in Pisces. Are the threads threading yet in your field? Are you aware of this monumental moment? We've got it. I'm going to be wrapping this up now. I think that the main key pieces have been initiated and anchored. When you know that this is for you, there are going to be some of you who are ready to fully walk through that threshold with me in these dates. You've been feeling it in your bones. You potentially didn't join the last one because you were meant to be at this one. You've been feeling this resurrection. You've been feeling this process and knowing that you are here to be a leader of this work, this embodiment, this presence of this consciousness on the planet. So much so that you've been ordained to be a part of this since before time was even written. And if that is your calling, then I encourage you to reach out to me as soon as you can, because we moving forward, we moving on, we moving up. So question that came in, are you saying I can't work during that period of time when going through the ghost points? No, that is not what I'm saying. And it's so funny how the mind loves to make up things that are not even being said. And that is what the mind does when it is wanting to find reasons to not do something that it is called towards. That is what the ego does. It goes in and it finds all these subtexts of things that aren't even said. I have these conversations with one of my private clients a lot because it's like continually making up these things that weren't even said. We are meant to be doing extraordinary work during the period of Passover. Does that mean that you stop doing your ordinary work? No, it means you focus on the extraordinary. If you want an extraordinary outcome during this period of time, you focus on the extraordinary. There's always going to be something going on to the ego. There's always going to be something more important. This is not a path for people who are not willing to rise and step into their calling. When it calls to you, you put things aside and you show up for it. You show up fully. You go in because you know that on the other side is something miraculous coming through you. And that's simply who this work is for. It is not for those who are still in the oversaturation of time and have not learned how to move miracles in their favor, because this work is extraordinary. It means it opens a tremendous amount of energy, and with that energy comes more responsibility. What did Jesus tap into on the other side of his resurrection? More responsibility to go out and to create more miracles. There was no, oh, I don't have time to go out and create miracles, or oh, I've got other things to do, or oh, I've overfilled my schedule. There was none of that. I'm going to wrap this up now, sending love to all of you, knowing that those who are called will be called, sending you so much love. I will see you next time, friends. I'll drop links below for those of you who want to check them out. And I will see you again real soon.